Welcome to Twilight Fables, where the stories you thought you knew are steeped in shadow, and every bedtime tale has a heartbeat beneath the floorboards. Tonight, we climb a beanstalk into the sky, but what waits at the top is not a land of giants, but something older, stranger and hungry. The hollow sky. They said the sky was just an endless blue, a painted dome, soft and silent. But Jack knew better. He'd seen it ripple. He'd seen the clouds twist into mouths, and the birds fly in loops that never ended. And now, with the ground beneath him giving way to the roots of something he should never have planted, Jack realised the sky wasn't a ceiling. It was a lid, and someone or something was about to lift it. The village of Witherby had once been a place of laughter, tucked between dying hills and rotting soil. It was poor, yes, but proud. The people carved stories into their fences, sang lullabies about wolves and witches, and taught their children to fear the wind that came from the north. That wind was never warm. Jack lived at the edge of that village, near the bones of a once thriving farm. His house leaned sideways, like it had grown tired of standing upright, and the last cow they owned was so thin you could see her heartbeat flutter through her ribs. Her name was Clara. Jack loved her. His mother did not. "We can't keep her," she snapped one grey morning, flinging open the warped shutters. "She gives no milk, and we've no seed for spring. You'll take her to the market, trade her for food, anything useful." Jack looked at Clara. Her eyes were soft, sad, knowing. "Isn't there another way?" His mother's silence said no. So Jack, with his patched boots and hungry stomach, led the cow down the winding road, past fields that hadn't grown in years. The trees watched him. The crows did not call. Halfway to town, he met a man sitting atop a stone wall that hadn't been there the day before. The man wore robes of damp velvet and a crown of rusted nails. His smile was all wrong. "That cow," the man rasped. "She's not meant to live here anymore." Jack blinked. "She's sick. I'm to trade her." "Oh no, boy," said the man. "Not a trade, a blessing. I will take the beast. You'll take these." He opened his palm. 5 beans, small and shriveled. They shimmered, though no light touched them. "They look worthless." "They're not. Plant one in soil, and the sky will open. Plant all 5, and the veil will tear. Do you understand?" Jack didn't, but he was tired and hungry, and something in him, something old and buried, ached when he looked at those beans. He agreed. The man took Clara. No leash, no struggle. The cow walked to him like she knew it was her time. Jack turned to ask a question. The man was gone. So was the wall. His mother screamed when he showed her the beans. She struck him once across the cheek, not out of cruelty, but desperation. "You've killed us," she whispered, voice hollow. "Those weren't beans. They were lies." She threw them out the window. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. There were no stars, not a single one. The next morning, Something green had erupted behind the house, a stalk, thick as a tree, twisted toward the heavens. Its surface pulsed, veiny and damp, like it wasn't grown, but grown through. Jack's mother wouldn't come near it. "It's not a plant," she muttered, rocking in the corner. "It's a wound." But Jack couldn't look away. He climbed. At first, it was like any tree, hand over hand, foot by foot. The air grew thin, but he didn't tire. He felt light, hollow, weightless. And the sky didn't fade to blue. It peeled. Above the clouds, there was no sunlight, just a vast, black dome. It rippled like oil. Occasionally, something on the other side pressed against it. Long fingers, slow-moving shadows. Jack passed bones lashed into the beanstalk's knots. A doll with no face. A locket filled with teeth. He kept climbing until he reached the top. There was no golden castle, no harp, no goose, just a plateau of ash floating in the endless void. Jack stepped onto it, the beanstalk swaying behind him like a snake satisfied with its hunt. In the distance, spires rose, twisted towers made of bone and obsidian, with windows that opened and closed like blinking eyes. And in the centre of it all was the sound of breathing, wet, enormous, laboured. Jack walked. He didn't know why, but his feet moved, his hands trembled. Something in the sky above him watched. As he reached the edge of the tallest spire, a figure stepped forward. It was not a giant. It was a man, and yet it wasn't. Its skin was stretched too tightly, its limbs too long, its head bent at an unnatural angle, and its smile never touched its eyes. "You climbed," it said. I did. Few do, fewer return." Jack's mouth was dry. "What is this place?" The creature looked upward, and the sky screamed. Not with sound, but colour, vibration, memory. Jack saw himself as a child, as a dying man, as something buried. He saw his mother weeping. He saw Clara walking into darkness. He saw teeth behind clouds. "This is the hollow sky," the creature whispered. "You are the key, and the door is open now." Jack tried to run, but the beanstalk was gone. Jack screamed, but the sound went nowhere. His voice died in the air, muffled, like it had been swallowed whole by the sky itself, the place he had climbed to. The impossible plateau above the clouds seemed to respond with a silence deeper than death. The beanstalk had vanished, no sign of its pulsing green coils, no path back, only the ash beneath his feet, and the creature that smiled at him with skin too tight and eyes too calm. "You open the way," it said again, voice like breath in a crypt, "and now you will walk it." Jack stumbled backward, his boots crunching the surface below. Ash, yes, but not just ash. There were shapes beneath it, half-buried limbs, jawbones, a ring of vertebrae looped like a crown. What is this place?" The creature tilted its head again. "A garden," Or it was, before the roots came. Its eyes flicked downward, toward the world Jack had come from. You planted the seed, you gave it soil, but you do not understand what grows from a hunger like that. Jack clenched his fists. I was tricked. That man with the nails on his head, he gave me the beans. A flicker of something passed across the creature's face. Something very near a smile. But it didn't belong there. That was not a man. That was a shard, a memory, a splinter of the being who sleeps at the core of this place. You fed it. You fed him. Jack stepped back, felt the ash shift beneath his feet. The air was cold now, impossibly thin, but beneath it all, he sensed something, beating, a distant thump, like a heart beneath stone. I want to go home. There is no home, only return. And with that, the creature turned and walked toward the spires in the distance, its long limbs dragging behind it like strings on a marionette. Jack followed. He didn't know why. Maybe it was fear, maybe curiosity, or maybe the air here, thin and strange, was unraveling something inside him. Thought, memory, identity. He couldn't remember what colour his mother's eyes were anymore. Couldn't remember the taste of milk or the warmth of the sun. But he could remember the scream of the sky. That would never leave him. They passed rows of obsidian pillars, each carved with reliefs of inhuman faces. Too many eyes, too many mouths. Some were human at the top, beast at the bottom. Others were reversed. One had no face at all, just an open cavity filled with mirrors. Who made these? Jack asked. Not who. What? They were dreamers once, before the tower called to them. He pointed toward the central spire, the tallest, blackest shape in the sky, pulsing faintly with light, like a heartbeat. Jack's knees buckled. That light, it pulsed not in rhythm with the tower, but with him, as if it were tuned to his breath, his pulse, his thoughts. I want to leave. You cannot, but I will. No. Jack turned on the creature, rage flickering up from his gut. Then tell me why. Tell me what I've done, what I have unleashed. The creature finally stopped. You did not unleash it. You awoke it. It was always there, beneath the world, beneath the sky. The seeds were gifts, little promises. All they needed was a believer, a boy desperate enough to feed the earth. Jack's voice cracked. For what? The creature leaned in close, its breath dry and cold. To open the hollow sky. Inside the tower, time changed. Steps wound upward and downward in ways Jack could not track. The walls pulsed. Sometimes they were stone, sometimes flesh. He passed doors with screaming mouths instead of handles. Windows showed things that didn't exist. People who should be dead, or worse, people who hadn't been born yet. One room had a throne made of roots and hair. Another had a fountain filled with black ichor. It smelled like crushed flowers and rot. Jack kept climbing. At one point, the creature stopped before a wall, etched with constellations that moved like insects. It raised a hand. You must meet the others, it said. Jack blinked. Others. The wall opened. Inside, a long table stretched into the dark. Around it sat a dozen figures, cloaked, hooded, silent, but they weren't alive, not truly. Each wore the same rusted crown of nails as the man from the road. Each had beans sprouting from their fingertips, roots bursting through bone. They turned as one. Their voices came not from mouths, but from behind Jack's ears, a whispering chorus. He is the next. He brings the final seed. The sky will tear. Jack's body locked. He tried to speak, tried to scream. Instead, he stepped forward. 1 step, 2, 3. Wait. No, I don't want this. It does not matter. The table cracked. Roots burst from its surface, wrapping around his legs. One dug into his ankle. Another slid behind his ear. You have already been planted. The creature behind him did nothing, simply watched. Stop this, Jack shouted. You said I opened the door. That doesn't mean I have to walk through it. The roots pulled harder, but just as they reached his chest, a deep, groaning sound tore through the tower. Not from within, from below. The table shattered, the cloaked figures shrieked, and somewhere far, far beneath the floating sky, something had moved. Not just stirred, moved. It was awake now, and it was looking for its key. Jack collapsed to the floor, gasping. The roots had retracted. The hooded ones were gone. The tower was silent again. The creature turned. It comes faster now, it said. It smelled you. Jack, panting, stared up. What is it? The creature knelt, placing a hand on Jack's shoulder. It is the one who planted the first seed, who built the veil between sky and stars, the one who sleeps in the breath between universes. Its eyes glowed, and now it wants to come through. Jack shook. I didn't mean to do this. I just wanted to save my mother. I just wanted to trade a cow for food. Intent means nothing. You climbed. You believed. That is enough. The creature stood again. There may be a way to stop it, but it comes at great cost. What kind of cost? Your soul. Jack blinked. My soul. You are tethered now. If you sever it, you sever the root that holds the gate open, but it will not be pleasant. And if I don't? The tower groaned again. The walls shook. Far below, the sky bled. Then the hollow sky opens fully, and your world will be swallowed. Jack didn't speak, not right away. The creature's words echoed through the chamber, louder than they should have been, louder than any voice in a place like this had the right to be. Your soul is the root. To sever it is to shut the gate. But what did that mean? Jack's hands trembled. His heart raced. He tried to think of the farm, of Clara, of his mother's laugh, back when there was something to laugh about. But the memories were blurred, like looking at them through fogged glass. He couldn't recall her face anymore, not clearly. Her voice, maybe, or the rhythm of her scolding, but her face, gone. like the beanstalk, like the path home. Why me? Jack whispered. Why me? Why not one of the hooded ones, or the man on the wall? The creature's head tilted. Because you were empty, Jack stared. You had nothing left but the shape of hunger. You made the perfect vessel, not because you were chosen, but because you had nothing to lose. Jack stood, fists clenched. That's not true. I have my mother. She's already fading. Can't you feel it? Your return would poison her. The longer you stay, the deeper your roots grow, and hers rot. The hollow sky doesn't let go. A pause. You're feeding it. Jack backed away. No, I won't let that happen. Take me to the way out. Now. The creature smiled, revealing rows of human teeth. Too human, too many. There is no exit, only descent. They moved deeper into the tower. The walls narrowed, pressing in with every turn. Soon, Jack was crawling through tight stone passages, lined with what looked like tree bark. The texture pulsed, wet and alive. He tried not to touch it. They passed more of the crowned husks. Some hung suspended by root-like tendrils. Others knelt in eternal prayer, their mouths stitched shut with vine. Jack stumbled. He saw one twitch. Don't stop, the creature said. What were they? Believers, like you. Did they try to escape? The creature said nothing. Eventually, the tunnel opened again, revealing a chamber unlike the others. Vast, round, the ceiling was lost in darkness, but the floor was mirrored glass, perfect, smooth, and impossibly cold. Jack stepped into it and gasped. The reflection beneath his feet was not his own. It showed him taller, paler. His eyes were black, and roots curled from his ribs. His hands were stained crimson. His smile was not human. Jack staggered back. What is this? The creature whispered. The self you grow into if the seed is left unchecked. The version the hollow sky is trying to make. Jack's stomach turned. How do I stop it? By killing it. Jack looked up. How? A mirror cracked. The reflection smiled. The floor beneath him gave way. Jack fell, screaming, into a shaft of green light and cold wind. Roots whipped past him. Shadows howled. He saw the farm again, its roof caving in. Clara's bones scattered in mud. His mother with empty eye sockets, staring upward. Then darkness. He woke on stone, alone. The creature was gone. The chamber was massive, lined with monoliths covered in moving glyphs. At the centre was a pit, and from that pit rose the root, the source, as thick as a mountain and pale as milk. It spiralled upward into the sky above, disappearing into the dome. Black veins pulsed along its surface, glowing slightly with each beat. Jack approached. He felt it, calling to him, a warmth in his chest, a pressure behind his eyes, and then he heard it. Jack. His name, whispered not by a voice, but by the root itself. You are the gate. Jack dropped to his knees. What do you want from me? The root uncoiled, revealing something buried in its base, his own body, curled, sleeping, connected to the root by tendrils at the spine, the wrists, the eyes. It was him, a perfect double, still breathing, still feeding. Jack backed away. No, I'm awake. I'm here. That's not me. The voice came again. One is awake, one is dreaming. Only one can survive. He understood then. This thing had made a copy. Or maybe he was the copy. Maybe the Jack that had returned home, if he ever did, wouldn't be him at all. The root twitched. The body stirred. Jack turned to run, but the chamber had changed. Dozens of doors now surrounded him, each one marked with a symbol from the old world. A feather, a flame, a pair of shears, a child's hand, a severed tongue. One door swung open on its own. Beyond it, light, not warmth, not hope, just light. The creature appeared again, stepping through a door behind him. You've seen it now, it said. The truth. The copy must be destroyed. The seed burned. The hollow sky resealed. Jack's voice was a whisper. What if I'm the copy? Then you must die. He didn't sleep that night, if night even existed here. He sat by the root, watching it breathe, watching himself twitch and murmur. He remembered stories of changelings, doppelgangers, spirits that stole faces and fed on names. Maybe this wasn't a fairy tale at all. Maybe this was a confession. Jack approached the root's base. A knife lay nearby, long, black, carved from obsidian. It hadn't been there before. He picked it up. The other Jack stirred. Jack stood over him, breath for breath, pulse for pulse. If he killed this one, would he go free or vanish forever? The knife trembled in his grip. I'm sorry, he whispered. But before he could strike, the other Jack's eyes flew open, and they were not human. They weren't human eyes, and they were mirrors. Black glass pools, reflecting things that should not exist. In their depths, Jack saw twisted forests, blooming beneath rotted skies, rivers of ash crawling with mouths. He saw Clara again, her bones moving without flesh, dragged through the mud by invisible strings. He saw his mother, her body still and pale, lips whispering prayers to gods that hadn't listened for 1,000 years. And worst of all, he saw himself, dozens of versions of himself, some burning, some drowning, some whispering in tongues, as their bodies rooted into the earth like trees. The other Jack blinked and smiled. You took too long, it said, with Jack's voice and something else beneath it, an echo of the sky itself. Jack stumbled backward. What are you? You, it said, the better version, the one that doesn't hesitate, the one the hollow sky wants. The root pulsed behind them. It responded to the copy's presence, throbbing faster, louder, growing warmer. It favoured him, fed him. The creature appeared behind Jack, silent, unmoving. You must act now, it whispered, before it roots fully. Jack raised the obsidian knife. His hands trembled. "You're not me," he hissed. The other Jack stood, naked but unafraid. Roots slithered from its spine. They writhed like tails, dancing across the chamber floor. "I'm everything you left behind. The hunger, the selfishness, the need. You threw me away when you tried to save your mother. But I grew down here, Jack, and now I'm ready." Jack screamed and lunged. The blade found flesh, but it wasn't enough. The root Jack caught his wrist. With inhuman strength, yanked the knife from his hand and twisted. Jack cried out, falling to the floor. The creature moved, but too slowly. Vines lashed from the root and flung it into the wall. "You think you're in control," the root Jack snarled. "You don't even know where this place ends." The chamber cracked. The mirrored floor split, and beneath it was not earth. Beneath it was sky, twisting, screaming sky, filled with thousands of floating figures, children, mothers, men. Their bodies hung upside down in an ocean of wind, their mouths open in silent wails. They were tethered by roots, and they were all still alive. Jack crawled away, heart pounding. The root Jack stalked toward him, the black blade now in its hand. "I'll do what you never could," it hissed. "I'll finish opening the hollow sky. I'll bring them through." Jack's voice shook. "You'll kill everyone. They're already dead. They just don't know it yet." The knife came down. Jack rolled. The blade cut into his shoulder, searing with unnatural heat. He howled, grabbed a shard of broken mirror and stabbed blindly. Glass pierced root Jack's thigh. It screamed, not in pain, but rage. "Enough!" The sky above the chamber tore, a slit of white, and from it descended something too vast to see. A form without form, made of ribs and light and old sound. The god of the hollow sky. Its voice broke the world. "Children, come." The root Jack turned to it, arms raised like a prophet. "Take me." But the god did not descend to him. It looked at Jack, only Jack, because Jack had climbed. Jack had believed. He was the first, and that mattered. The voice came again. "Only one." Root Jack screamed, "No, he's weak. He's afraid. I've grown. I've rooted." But it didn't matter. The tendrils from above reached for Jack, not to embrace, to harvest. The creature returned, crawling from the shadows, half broken but alive. "There is no more time," it rasped. "You must sever the root. End it. Now." "How?" The creature pointed at Jack's own chest. "The root is in you now. You let it in, cut it out, or be taken." Jack stared at the knife, then at the god, then at the wound in his shoulder, already pulsing with small vines beneath the skin. He understood. He was the gate. If he didn't close it, his world would be devoured. Jack seized the knife, raised it high, and plunged it into his own chest. Pain like fire, like ice, like the scream of stars. He felt the root inside him twist and pull, trying to flee. He dragged the knife downward, slicing open the vine, wrapping around his heart. The tendrils from the sky shrieked and recoiled. Rootjack wailed in agony, his form unravelling, becoming smoke, becoming ash. The god of the hollow sky roared, the chamber cracked, the mirrored floor exploded in light, and Jack fell again. He hit earth, real earth. The beanstalk above him twisted in agony, curling in on itself. Its bark blackened, its vines turned to smoke. It groaned like an animal dying in the dirt. Jack rolled onto his back, coughing, bleeding, sobbing. The sky above him was blue, real blue. The sun shone, birds sang, and far, far in the distance, the clouds were just clouds. The beanstalk collapsed, falling into itself, vanishing into the soil like it had never been. The wound had closed, but Jack was different now. The root was gone, but something remained, a seed, buried, waiting. The sun was too bright. It pressed against Jack's skin like a judgment. The air felt wrong, too clean, too warm, as though reality was overcompensating, trying to convince him he had returned somewhere safe. But there was no safety now, not really. He lay for hours in the wreckage of the garden behind the house. The beanstalk was gone, no trace, not even disturbed soil, only a shallow depression where it once rooted itself, like a scar that had healed over too fast. Jack's shoulder still throbbed, the cut across his chest burned, but he was alive, and he was alone. His mother did not answer when he called. The farmhouse door was ajar. Wind creaked it back and forth, revealing flashes of empty chairs, cold embers, and dust that had not yet settled. Jack stepped inside. The kitchen smelled like old milk and damp cloth. Pots lay where they'd been dropped. A spoon floated in a basin of grey water. Mother? No reply. He walked through the house in silence. Her bedroom was untouched, the bed still made, but a single boot sat by the window, the other missing. Jack searched for hours, but there was no sign of her, only the faint scent of roots beneath the floorboards. That night, he dreamed of the hollow sky. It stretched over the horizon like a bruise. In it were eyes, slow, blinking and mournful. They watched him as he ran through dead fields, as he called her name, as he fell to his knees. And when he woke, the sound of something scraping whispered from beneath the floor. By the second day, the crows had stopped coming. By the third, the well had gone dry. And by the fourth, Jack noticed that the trees along the edge of the property had changed. Their bark pulsed faintly at dusk. Their leaves moved when there was no wind. He walked to one of them, pressed a hand against its trunk. It was warm, and it breathed. He ran down the old road, through Witherby's outskirts, all the way to the market square. But the village wasn't right. It looked the same, but the faces. People turned to look at him and quickly looked away. Their eyes were bloodshot. Their hands were shaking. One woman was missing all her teeth, but not from age. Her gums were smooth, sealed like wax. "What happened?" Jack gasped to an old man seated outside the chapel. The man did not blink. "The sky cracked," he said simply. "We heard it, all of us." Jack's stomach turned. "When?" "4 nights ago, just for a moment. The sun vanished, the wind turned inside out, and then it was gone again, like it had never happened." The man leaned closer. "But it did." Jack tried to warn them. He told the blacksmith, the preacher, the baker's son. He told them about the beanstalk, the seed, the sky, the god. They laughed, or they stared, or they turned away. "Don't go near the farm," one man muttered. "It's tainted." Another whispered, "He's still got the seed inside. You can see it in his eyes." Jack looked into the mirror that night. His reflection blinked too slowly, and the whites of his eyes had begun to pale into grey. On the 5th night, the dreams returned. But this time, he wasn't in the hollow sky. He was beneath it, buried, wrapped in roots. He couldn't move, couldn't scream. Something moved above him, whispering, planting. Seeds rained down like black rain, sinking into his skin, and in the distance, his mother's voice, singing the lullaby she used when he was small. Only now, the words were wrong, warped, praising something with too many arms. When he awoke, the roots had broken through the wall of the cellar. They weren't from a tree. They were pale, veined and warm to the touch. They pulsed slowly, as if thinking. Jack backed away, heart racing. The seed, the echo root. It had not died with the stalk. It had migrated. It was still growing. In him, around him, through him. He tried to run again, but the road out of Witherby no longer ended where it used to. It twisted back, and back again. By sunset, Jack stood once more at his own front door. No matter which way he walked, he returned. He was contained. The hollow sky had closed its gate, but it had left behind its garden, and Jack was its gardener. The creature came that night. He found it standing in the old barn, now overrun with vines and ash. Its limbs were brittle, its eyes flickered, but it was smiling. "You severed the root," it said. "Then why is it still here?" Jack demanded. "Because you survived." Jack's fists clenched. "You said the gate would close." "It did." "Then why can't I leave?" The creature tilted its head. "Because gates open on both those ways." Jack deep froze, and in that moment he understood. He hadn't just climbed up. He had let something down. Beneath the farmhouse, in the deepest dark of the old root cellar, something moved. It wasn't fully formed, not yet, but it was coming, and Jack would be its shepherd, unless he found a way to destroy the seed completely. No knife, no prayer, no severing. This time he would have to dig. Jack did not sleep anymore. Each night his body shook with tremors. The dreams no longer waited for him to close his eyes. They came while he was awake, slipped through the corners of his sight. crawled up from the floors. Whispers followed him, soft, melodic, and close. They spoke in his mother's voice. They promised peace, but he knew better. Peace was a lie. This land, his home, was no longer a place. It was a waiting mouth, a cocoon of soil woven to hatch something vast. And he was still the seed. The roots now crawled visibly along the fields. They didn't hide any more, pale as bone, curling in and out of the ground like they were tasting the air. At night, he could hear them, scraping under the walls, dragging over the windows. They were looking for him, but he wasn't going to run, not anymore. He was going to kill whatever was growing beneath the house. The cellar was worse than before. He lit 2 lanterns, one for his hand, one for his belt, and descended into the dark. The roots had split the stone foundation apart, widened the floor with cracks. Vines slithered like veins across the walls. In the far corner, where old potatoes had once been kept in sacks, the earth had broken open. A hole had formed, wide, black, and breathing. Jack knelt beside it. The air that rose from within was warm and smelled of wet copper. He placed a hand on the edge. "Whatever you are," he whispered, "you won't grow any further." And then he climbed down. The tunnel went deeper than it should have. At first, it felt like crawling through dirt, but the deeper he went, the more shaped it became, less a natural burrow and more a designed passageway. The walls bore carvings, spirals, mouths, runes he couldn't read, but somehow understood. He was going back to the hollow sky, or worse, beneath it. At one point, the tunnel split, left or right. The left pulsed with a dull red glow. The right breathed, slow, rhythmic, and cold. He chose the right because he remembered the breath of the god in the sky, and this one did not match. He passed what looked like altars, built from ribs. He found a lantern that still burned but had no flame. He saw a woman's dress nailed to a tree stump with blackened vines growing through it. He did not stop. The cavern opened. It was massive, circular, and at its centre grew the heart. That's what it was. Not a seed, not a root, not a vine. A massive, throbbing heart, grown from bark and meat and memory. Veins stretched from it into the walls, into the ceiling, into the world above. It beat to his breath. Jack dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. Every thump of the heart pulled at his ribs. It was inside him, connected, a mirror. He approached. At its base lay bones, dozens, villagers, strangers. One wore his mother's shawl. She was gone, fed to the soil. He wept, and then he stood. "I'll kill you," he said to the heart. It responded by beating harder. The knife he had once used was gone, lost above the clouds, but there were others. He knelt before one of the skeletons and pried loose a femur. Sharpened on stone it would do. He approached the heart. Roots shifted, tentacles preparing to strike. "Not this time," Jack muttered. He plunged the bone blade into the heart's base. It screamed, not sound, not words, time. The air collapsed around him. The cavern shook, roots convulsed, flinging dust and bone. He stabbed again, and again, and again. Each blow sent pulses of agony up his arm. He saw visions, other worlds, skies with 2 moons, oceans of glass, cities where children grew on vines, suns that wept blood. But he did not stop. He tore into the heart, and then it split. From its centre, something stepped out. It looked like a boy, 8, maybe 9, barefoot, pale, black eyes. It looked like Jack, but younger, more innocent, and terribly, terribly wrong. "You shouldn't have done that," it said. Jack raised the bone blade. "I'm not afraid of you." The boy smiled. "I know, that's why I chose you." Then he lunged. The fight wasn't fair. Jack's weapon was crude. The boy's hands became claws. The cavern howled with wind as the roots around them moved to defend the child. Jack was bleeding. He fell once, twice, but each time he rose again, because he saw the farm burning behind his eyes, because he saw his mother's empty shawl, because something worse was still trying to come through. Jack tackled the boy to the ground, raised the blade, and drove it down into the boy's chest. The boy's mouth opened in shock, and from it came a burst of light, not warm, not cold, just truth. The cavern exploded, roots withered, the heart dissolved, the air turned still. Jack lay on his back, gasping, alone. He crawled from the tunnel at dawn. The field was dead. The roots had dried and cracked. The trees were still, and for the first time in weeks, there was silence. He returned to the house, collapsed in the doorway, and slept for 3 days. But even in sleep, the dreams waited, because beneath every wound, some seed remains, and though Jack had cut the heart free, he never did find the 5th bean. The world had gone still, too still. Jack stood in the garden, or what remained of it, blackened rows of soil, cracked and dry, the air still holding a trace of copper rot. No bird sang, no wind stirred, even the insects had vanished. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath. He had killed the heart, he had crushed its prophet, but it wasn't finished, not while that final seed remained. It had started as a whisper, not from beneath, but within. Something scratching gently at the back of his thoughts. Not a word, not a memory, a presence. It didn't speak, but it invited. Come deeper, come closer, come and plant. He tried to ignore it, but every step he took left behind a curl of ivy. Every drop of sweat carried the scent of soil, and when he bled, his blood steamed against the earth, as if nourishing it. He searched the house, turned over floorboards, ripped open the mattress, emptied every drawer, but he never found the 5th bean, until the moment he realised it wasn't something he possessed, it was something he was. The mirror told him the truth. His reflection lagged a second too long behind his movements. His eyes darkened by the day. His veins had begun to rise, like vines crawling beneath his skin. The fifth bean had never been thrown from the window. It had been tucked into his shirt pocket long ago, and it had taken root. It was inside him now. It had always been. He fled to the chapel. The village was quieter than ever. The people watched him from behind curtains, no longer afraid, no longer angry, just waiting, as if they sensed it too, as if they knew something was blooming. The chapel was abandoned, but the altar remained. He climbed it, stood beneath the cracked stained glass window of the sun, and whispered to the sky, "How do I destroy what I am?" No answer came, only the echo of the wind through empty pews. So he did the only thing he could. He cut, he carved into the flesh above his heart, where the root had first bloomed. He pulled the knife down his chest, teeth clenched against the pain. The roots curled beneath his skin, trying to retreat, but he kept going, cut deeper and deeper until he found it, small, black, still warm, the fifth bean. He collapsed on the floor, bleeding and breathless, the bean pulsing in his hand. It moved, twitched, and then split. From inside it bloomed light, and from the light a voice, not spoken aloud, but written inside his thoughts. "We could make you whole." Jack turned his face away. "You have felt it, the weight of being broken, the need for more, the hunger. We could fix that." He crushed the bean beneath his boot. The light screamed, and the sky above the chapel cracked. He had not closed the hollow sky, only paused it. The seed was part of him, and now that it was destroyed, the connection broke, but not quietly. He had ripped open the scar, and something had seen. It came through, not a god, not a monster, a question, shaped like a man, shadow where light should be, wearing the faces of everyone Jack had ever known. It stepped through the broken window of the chapel, barefoot and smiling. "You finished the climb," it said, "but the sky was never yours." Jack raised his knife. "I'm done being your gate." "You were never the gate," it whispered. "You were the garden." The thing advanced. Its mouth split sideways. Inside were thousands of seeds, each with a screaming face. Jack struck. The knife passed through smoke. He fell backward into the altar. The being leaned closer. "I will plant you." Suddenly, the chapel doors burst open. Wind roared in. A shape stood there. The creature, weakened, barely formed, but alive. "You cannot have him," it said, the shadow being turned. "You are not strong enough to stop me." "No," the creature rasped, "but I am still rooted, and I remember his name." Jack's ears rang. The wind turned black. The creature stepped forward and unspooled. Its body broke apart into vines and symbols, memories and pain. It wrapped around the shadow thing, binding it, dragging it backward into the light. "You will not bloom here." And then they were both gone. The wind died. The chapel stood quiet again. Jack lay bleeding, alone, but free. The hollow sky had closed. Truly, he buried the crushed remains of the 5th bean beneath the chapel's foundation, piled stones over the grave, and whispered, "No more growing." He returned to the farm one final time, lit a match, and let it burn. The fire burned all night. It started in the barn, where the roots had first cracked through the floor. Jack fed it with salt, oil, and every last trace of what had grown there, stalk, seed, and memory. Then he took the flame to the house, not because he hated it, but because he knew the walls had watched. The beams had listened. They were not clean. The wind howled through the old boards as the roof collapsed in flames. Somewhere in the distance, the trees screamed. He didn't stay to watch it die. Jack walked down the path barefoot, the soles of his feet torn, skin caked in soot and blood. The sun had not risen. It might never rise again. Or maybe he'd just forgotten how to see it. Witherby was empty. The market stalls were gone. The chapel stood silent, its glass repaired by no hand, as if time had sealed its wound out of mercy. He passed through the village unseen, or perhaps unrecognised. He had aged in ways the body does not show. He went north, beyond the hills, through the bogs. He slept in trees, ate roots that did not pulse, drank only from wells he dug himself, and each night the dreams grew weaker. At first, weeks passed, or months. He lost track. One day, he came across a child crying beside a river, a girl no older than 7, knees scraped, her basket of berries scattered down the slope. Jack helped her up, said nothing, gave her the scarf he'd wrapped around his hand. She stared at him. "You smell like rain," she said. He smiled, though it hurt. "That's better than what I used to smell like." She asked where he was from. He pointed back the way he came. "There was a stork," he said, "a very tall one." Her eyes widened, like in the stories. He nodded. "But mine didn't end with gold." She giggled and ran back to her village. That night, he sat beside the river, watching the stars. One blinked, then another. He tensed, but the sky remained whole. For now, he built a home at the edge of the valley, small, quiet, deep in the woods. No roads led to it, no paths crossed near it. He made rules. Never speak your name aloud at night. Never follow voices into the trees. Never grow anything from a stranger's hand. People came sometimes. Lost travellers, lonely farmers, even the occasional child. He gave them water, bread, silence. They never stayed long, but each one left with a story of a man with soot on his face and eyes like burned soil. Years passed. The earth healed, but Jack did not. Not really. His scars remained on his chest, on his shoulder, in his mind. Some nights he dreamed of the boy again, not the shadow, the younger Jack, the one who still believed in things, who still hoped, who still thought the world had rules. That boy always stood at the foot of the bed, barefoot, watching him, saying nothing, just waiting. One night, the wind shifted. It came from the sky, cold, familiar. Jack stood at the edge of the field, hand to the earth, and felt nothing. No pulse, no breath, no roots. He waited until morning, still nothing. Then he turned away and whispered, "Good." He died in spring, quietly, in sleep. The townsfolk buried him beneath a stone that read only, "He closed the sky," and for generations the fields around that grave grew nothing. No flowers, no trees, just ash, as if the earth itself remembered and refused to ever grow again.